you've probably heard someone say, "Just leave." Maybe you've said it to yourself 1,000 times. But here's the thing that nobody talks about. Your brain physically won't let you. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why toxic relationships feel more addictive than actual drugs. This isn't about weakness. It isn't about stupidity. There is a real, documented psychological mechanism happening inside your mind. And once you see it clearly, everything starts to make sense. When we say toxic relationship addiction, most people picture someone who just loves the drama, or someone who doesn't know any better. But that's not what's actually happening here. Toxic relationship psychology tells us something very different. What you're dealing with is a genuine neurochemical cycle, one that your brain has been trained into without you even realizing it. It's not a personality flaw. It's a pattern your nervous system has learned, and the brain doesn't give up learned patterns easily, especially ones tied to survival-level emotions like love and fear. Here's where the science gets wild. Every time something good happens in your relationship, a sweet text, a moment of genuine connection, an apology that feels real, your brain releases dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical, the reward chemical, the same one that lights up when someone wins at a slot machine. But here's where things get interesting. Dopamine doesn't actually spike the highest when you get the reward consistently. It spikes the highest when the reward is unpredictable. Neuroscientists call this variable reward reinforcement, and it is the single most powerful psychological mechanism known to create compulsive behavior. Your brain is literally chasing the high of not knowing. The unpredictability of a toxic partner. Are they loving today or cold today? Do they praise you or criticize you? That uncertainty is what creates the addictive loop. You are not addicted to the person. You're addicted to the hope of the next good moment. Now, this next part might surprise you. The psychological term for what's happening is intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same technique used to train animals, to design casinos, and yes, it shows up in toxic relationships, sometimes deliberately, sometimes not. When someone gives you love and withdraws it at random intervals, your brain treats every positive moment like hitting the jackpot. The more inconsistent the affection, the more obsessively your brain focuses on getting it back. It's a documented pattern in toxic relationship psychology that explains why people describe toxic love as more intense and more consuming than any healthy relationship they've ever been in. Healthy relationships feel calm, and to a brain trained on chaos, calm can actually feel boring. That is not your fault. That is your nervous system doing exactly what it was conditioned to do. Let's talk about trauma bonding explained in the simplest way possible. Trauma bonding is what happens when cycles of abuse or emotional pain are mixed with cycles of intense affection. When someone causes you harm and then comes back with love and warmth, your brain doesn't process those as separate events. It links them together. The relief you feel when the conflict ends and they're loving again creates a powerful emotional attachment, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Think about it like this. Imagine being lost in the dark for hours, genuinely terrified. Then someone hands you a flashlight. That person becomes your hero in your mind, even if they were the one who turned the lights off in the first place. That's trauma bonding. The brain attaches to the source of relief, even when that source is also the source of pain. This is why so many people in toxic relationships describe their partner as their best friend and their worst enemy at the same time. Here's something that sounds completely backwards. Stress can make you more attached, not less. When you are in a state of anxiety, fear, or emotional uncertainty, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. Those chemicals keep you hypervigilant, hyper-focused, and emotionally activated. And when that state is tied to a specific person, your brain starts associating that person with heightened emotional arousal. Over time, being around that person literally feels more alive than being without them. This is part of why toxic love addiction feels so different from healthy love. Healthy love is stable. Toxic love is electric. And when someone has spent months or years running on that electric current, the absence of it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like withdrawal. This is the question at the heart of why you're watching this. Why is it so hard to leave a toxic relationship even when you know it's hurting you? The answer is layered. First, intermittent reinforcement has trained your brain to keep trying. Second, Trauma bonding has wired your nervous system to see this person as both the danger and the safety. Third, and this one is often overlooked, your identity has slowly been reshaped around the relationship. Many people in emotionally toxic dynamics start to lose track of who they are outside of that bond. The relationship becomes the frame around everything. Leaving doesn't just feel like losing a person, it feels like losing a version of yourself. And this is where most people make a mistake. They assume that logically understanding the toxicity should be enough to walk away. But logic and neurochemistry are running on entirely different systems in your brain. This part is uncomfortable, but it matters. One of the long-term effects of being in a toxic relationship is that your baseline sense of self-worth quietly shifts. When someone you love consistently criticizes you, pulls away, or makes you feel like you need to earn their affection, your brain begins to accept that framing. You start to believe, somewhere beneath the surface, that you need to try harder, be better, prove more. And now the relationship isn't just something you're in. It becomes something you feel you have to win. The goal isn't just to leave. The goal becomes to finally be enough. That psychological trap is one of the deepest reasons why emotional dependency in relationships can outlast all rational thinking. Here's an analogy that might reframe all of this for you. Imagine you grew up in a house where the heat worked randomly. Some days it was warm, some days it was freezing cold. You never knew which one you'd wake up to. Now imagine you move into a house where the heat works perfectly every single day. Logically, that's better, but your nervous system doesn't know that yet. For a while, the consistent warmth feels almost suspicious. Your brain keeps waiting for the cold to come back, because that's the pattern it was trained on. That's exactly what happens when people leave toxic relationships and try to build healthy ones. The stability doesn't register as safety yet. It registers as unfamiliar. And unfamiliar, to a nervous system trained on chaos, can feel like danger. This is why breaking free from toxic relationships isn't just about physically leaving. It's about reprogramming what safety actually feels like. The first and most important step isn't a specific strategy. It's understanding. When you genuinely understand that your attachment isn't weakness, it's neuroscience, something shifts. You stop fighting yourself and start working with your brain instead of against it. From there, the path forward involves rebuilding a sense of self that exists completely independent of the relationship, often with the help of therapy, community, or evidence-based practices like cognitive behavioral work or somatic healing that specifically targets the nervous system. Recognizing the signs of trauma bonding in your own story is not a diagnosis, it's a doorway, and walking through it is the beginning of building something real. Here's the bottom line. You were never crazy for staying. You were never weak for going back. Your brain was running a program it had been trained to run, one built on unpredictability, neurochemical dependency, and a deep human need for connection. Now that you can see the program clearly, you have something you didn't have before. You have a choice. If this video helped you finally understand what was happening inside your mind, then you'll want to watch the next one where I break down the exact stages of trauma bonding and what each stage actually does to your sense of reality. Drop a like if this hit home for you and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. You found this video for a reason.